Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here, taking a look at the new patch notes that just dropped right now. Here you can see a quick recap of what they buffed and they nerfed. So first up, we have the Moonstalker. It's going from a 6 cost 5/3 to a 5 cost 3/3, and now it has elusive by default. It doesn't have to get elusive just for the round. So this is a pretty nice buff. I think this card is potentially part of Diana's deck. Not 100% sure, but I think it might be in there. Nice that this is going to default be elusive. Going to be a lot better than just only getting elusive for the round with you have Nightfall. The Cloven Way, this is the stun card that I believe is also at the bottom of Diana's starting deck, where stun a unit, Nightfall, you stun it again. So we're going down to a 5 cost 4/3 instead of a 5 cost 5/4. That'll be quite nice. Normally that card gets cut. Might see a little bit more playability now in Diana's deck. So Moon Dreamer, it goes from play Evoke to play Evoke. Nightfall reduces the card's cost by 1. The main place you see this card is in the Aurelian Soul deck. He plays this quite often on his first round. However, he's normally not doing the Nightfall, so this shouldn't really affect too much. Targonian Tellstones, it's changing from Wish, Paddlestar, and Blessing to Behold the Infinite, Hush, and Blessing of Targon. So Behold the Infinite, that is the card that Zoe normally makes. It's the 2 cost Invoke. Hush is like silence, use it for a round. And then Blessing of Targon is grant a unit, I believe it's 3/3. So I think this is a bit better. The Tellstones is something you can often see in shops or rewards after completing, so this will just make the Tellstones a little bit better. For Azir, his level up is going to 12 allies instead of 13, so it's going to be a little bit easier to level him up. Don't think this should affect Path of Champions too much. Nasus, he gets a buff. He's going to a 3/3. Nasus needs a lot of help. This will just be a nice little buff. And then his ultimate form also is then a 4/4 from a 3/3. So just nice that they're buffing both versions of Nasus. Glory Call, this is going to a 5 cost from a 6 cost. Honestly, never seen this card in Path of Champions. Not really going to matter. Soul Harvest, this is the Shadow Isles version of Call the Weak, which is normally a Noxus card. So here it's kill a follower with 3 or less power, or spend 4 mana to kill a champion with 3 or less power. Now it's going to 3 mana to kill a champion with 3 or less power, so just gain a little bit more usable. Going to be nice, but again, this is a card that I haven't really seen in Path of Champions. Here we have Kagrin the Infernal. Now his grant for Dragon Allies Everywhere is going to be a 4/4 from a 2/2. Not really too usable, it's just no actual dragon decks in the game at the moment. This could be nice though if you get Shyvana as a support champion, and maybe get like a Poro Fluff or something that you can play this a lot earlier. Could be pretty nice, but generally not going to have much usability. Priestess of Desert Light, another card that I've never actually seen in Path of Champions. So it used to be deal 4 damage to me, draw a champion, or if your deck started with 6 different champions, summon it instead. Now it's also granting the champion 2/2 when you draw it. Again, never seen this in Path of Champions. So here we have Mirror Image, but they used Mirror Mage. This is the wrong card. Don't look at this. It's supposed to be Mirror Image, the LeBlanc spell that she generates when she levels up. So that's going from a 5+ power to just summon an exact ephemeral copy of an ally. You don't need that modifier anymore. This will be a slight buff to LeBlanc. Normally you were still using it on LeBlanc anyways, but now just in case she gets frostbitten or something like that, it'll still summon her. But yeah, don't look, they're not talking about Mirror Mage, it's Mirror Image. Bandle Gunner is another card that I've never seen in Path of Champions, but it's going from an 8 cost 7/7 to a 10 cost 5/5. With a little bit of a rework that now every time you play a multi-region card, their cost goes down by 1. Advanced Intel, this was one card I actually really like to grab in Path of Champions. It's now going from a 1 cost to a 2 cost, and now also draws a card. Pretty nice. Deathless Knight, I think I've seen this card once in Path of Champions, so it's going from a 6 cost to a 5 cost. What Deathless Knight does is that when he would get Ephemeral, instead, he grants himself a buff like 2/2 or 1/1, something like that. So it could be fun for Shadow Isles deck. Never really used it myself. Retired Reckoner is going to a 3/6 instead of a 2/3. Again, not really a card you see too much though. Here we have Ashe. Level up, you reduce the power of 4 enemies to 0. That's now going to 5 enemies, so it's going to be a little bit harder for your Ashe to level up. A bit sad as Ashe is a weaker deck, but still shouldn't be that big of a deal. Reckoning is go to a 7 cost from a 6 cost. Again, not really a card you use too much in Path of Champions, shouldn't affect us too much. Samira's All Out. This actually is going to be a somewhat substantial change, but not too terrible. So it's going from the Plunder effect, instead of giving you 2/2, it's now going to give you 2/1. So before it was just a super strong combat trick that you could use to save your units. Now it's going to be just a little bit less strong. She'll probably still be in the high A tier to S tier, but this is definitely going to be felt, so a little disappointing there. Wiggly Burblefish, this is going to an 8 cost from a 6 cost. This is in the Nami deck. Every time you play a spell, its cost gets reduced. Normally you're playing this for 0 cost. You can still probably get there, but it might be like one additional round before it gets discounted all the way. You will feel this, but I don't think it should affect Path of Champions too much. Inferna, this is the Samira support card. She's not in the Samira deck by default, but it was one of the cards that released with her. It has an effect like when you activate Plunder, I believe you draw a card or something similar to that. You normally don't use it, but it's going to change going from 1/5 to 1/4. Leona, this change is actually going to be pretty big. So level up, you've activated Daybreak 4 or more times. This is now going to 5 or more times. This is really going to hurt you because normally for Leona, when you play her at 5 mana, she's leveling up immediately. The fact that you have to wait an additional round before you can do that level up, this is really going to hurt, and really it's just going to slow down your game plan. Quite often you could try to combo it so you win when you play Leona. Now it's just going to take like an extra round potentially. While it's just increasing the level up condition by 1, this will actually make a pretty big change for Leona. Sun Guardian, going to a 2/2 instead of a 2/3. Little bit sad, always fun to play with this card, and it will be slightly weaker now. Karma is losing 1 health in both of her forms, so going from a 4/4 to a 4/3. This is going to be absolutely great, especially in the Aurelian Soul run, where she'll level up and just double her stats, because in Aurelian Soul, all champions have twice the amount of stats. So normally she can be very, very hard to kill. The fact that she's just losing 1 health is actually going to have a fairly big impact. So normally if you're facing up against her in Aurelian Soul, she won't be as tough as an opponent. So this is actually a pretty nice change for us. We have Caustic Rift going from a 3 cost to a 4 cost. However, the flow effect is also being adjusted accordingly. If you're using flow, it's still going to do the same thing it was doing before. What Caustic Rift does is, I believe it deals 1 damage to all enemies. So before it was a 3 cost, but it would cost 1 less with flow, so 2 mana. Now it's going to be a 4 cost baseline, but then flow, it's still going to cost 2. So as long as you're doing the flow effect, this will be fine. Drum Solo, draw 2, flow, reduce those cards' cost by 2. Now it's still that draw 2, but now with flow, it's reducing the cards' cost by 1 instead. So a little bit worse, but again, both of these cards aren't currently ones you're generally seeing with Path of Champions. Opulent Foyer, this is one you're normally going to see if you're playing Gwen. It's not in her support package, but you can see it often in shops. So it went from when I'm summoned or you gain the attack token, summon a Ghastly Band, to now when I'm summoned, summon a Ghastly Band, and then round start, if you have the attack token, summon a Ghastly Band. So you can't cheese this anymore with Rallies or Scout. Next we have Ambitious Assassin. Again, this isn't in any starting decks, but this is one of the cultists that released with Varus. So once you've equipped an ally this game, create a new spell that costs 2 in hand and set its cost to 0. They cost 0 this round. So what they're really changing is now the spell is just going to be discounted for this round instead of permanently discounted until you play it. Here's one that actually is going to have a fairly big effect. So they're changing the way that Prank works. So the -2 power is just being removed from the pool of available pranks. Now it's going to be -2 and vulnerable. And now it's going to be 2 cost increase for spells and 1 cost increase for non-spells. So normally what you'd want to do with prank, and you can generate this in a couple different decks, like Vagar and Nami, I believe both have the Autopus, and that allows them to summon these prank cards. They can be pretty nice for messing with your opponent. Normally what you're trying to get is a 2 cost increase to any of their units or spells. Well, they're slightly changing it, so now you're not going to get that 2 cost increase for their units. It's only going to be for spells. But they tried to adjust that by adding the -2 power and vulnerable. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Changes to competitive, not going to bother with that. Path of Champions. Elise is being added to Path of Champions. So this is absolutely awesome. Let's check out her star powers. When allies attack, grant allied spiderlings everywhere 1/1. All right, that's pretty awesome. So we're going to be scaling up all of our spiderlings throughout the entire game. 2-star, Caught in the Webs. +1 starting mana, round end. If an ally died this round, summon a spiderling. Awesome. This is going to be great because then you can have a lot of fodder units where you don't really care if they die, and you're constantly going to be summoning these spiderlings. So it should be pretty easy to level up Elise. And then the 3-star, when allies attack, grant allied spiderlings 1 power and the positive keywords of allied champions. Very, very interesting. So this is kind of making it so you want to add more champions to your deck, because when you do that, it's going to be given to all of your spiderlings as well. This is really going to give you a very interesting and rather unique playstyle where support champions are now really going to matter, and some of those relics you normally don't use where you summon champions or a random champion to your deck. This could actually be really, really good. We'll have to see what her starting deck actually looks like. We'll do a video about that tomorrow. This is awesome. Also, the big thing about this is we actually got Path of Champions content. So this was the variety pack. We didn't really know if we were actually going to get content in these patches, but the fact that we got a champion, this, even though it's one champion, it's still new content that we can have and enjoy. Awesome. It seems like we'll be getting new Path of Champions content every single month. I think that's amazing. And we're still getting about the same 6 champions that we did previously. Normally it'd be about every 3 months we'd get a big event with 6 champions dropping. What they're doing right now, they're spreading them out. So we got 2 champions, Thresh and Nami, that dropped less than a month before the event. The event dropped and we got 3 new champions. And now a month after the event, we're getting another champion. So we're still getting 6. It's just getting spread out a bit more, which I personally prefer a lot. So can't wait to check her out. We will definitely do tons of videos on her this week, so definitely stay tuned into the channel. These starting decks, don't get excited. It's not talking about starting decks for Path of Champions. It's talking about starting decks for the normal version of the game. Looks like there's going to be an event for the 3rd anniversary. 7 days of login gifts, so definitely try to log in during this time and get these fun rewards. The rewards we're going to get: Nora 3rd anniversary player icon, new Nora emote, Bard champion card, Nora icon, Nora prismatic, and 3rd anniversary card back. All right, so bug fixes. We should see some fixes for Path of Champions in here. Let's see. First one, fix an issue where copies of units from Poro Fluffit died when summoned in the Path Champion. So great that they fixed that. Fix an issue where Poro Fluffit reapplied when the champion leveled up or was transformed. Also very good. If you don't know what happened, Poro Fluffit reduces your health down to 1/1, but also reduces your cost to 1. But sometimes it would reduce your cost so low that your unit would just die when they were getting summoned. And then also when your champion leveled up, it would trigger again and reset them all down. So even if you played them for 1 cost 1/1 and then you buffed them up, if they leveled up, they'd be reset back down to a 1/1. Really annoying. It kind of made Poro Fluffit unusable on a champion. Fixed an issue where Ephemeral was missing its icon and highlight on the curse symbol item for the Path Champions. Okay, good. Fixed an issue where player profile card collection showed the Freljord region only at 99%, even when all cards were purchased. I'm going to skip over some of the fixes since there's a lot that don't regard to Path of Champions at all. So fix an issue where Nasus Boon of the Ascended rank 2 would not become the restored Sun Disk if the Sun Disk waited for room in the back row of an overflow zone. So essentially what happened is sometimes you would trigger Nasus's 3rd star power of killing 10 units or slaying them, and then you're supposed to summon the restored Sun Disk. Yeah, it wouldn't always work, so it's nice that they actually fix that. All right, so here they have it at the end, and sadly it is not actually really addressed, but they're bringing it up, but they're not actually fixing it. So they're addressing it, but yeah, not actually fixing. Known issue with the event pass causing players who already have a relic, so the Chemtech duplicator, to receive nothing after completing that node. The team is working on a fix and will compensate players for this node in the future patch. All right, so at least they're saying that they are aware of the issue and they will compensate players. So this is really well done. Sad that it's not fixed now. At least they're saying, hey, we know about this, we know it's a problem, and you will be compensated. So sad, I thought they were going to fix it this patch, but at least they are working on it. So that is the patch notes. Most of the balance changes aren't affecting Path of Champions. There are some cards there that you will see very often. So some champions might feel a bit better or a bit worse. Leona specifically is probably going to feel a bit worse to play with them increasing that level up. So kind of sad there. However, we got a new champion. That's awesome. They addressed the issue with Chemtech Duplicator. They said that they will compensate us in a later patch. So good that they are committing to that. But honestly, the biggest news is that it seems like Path of Champions is going to get some amount of update every single month. That is absolutely awesome. I will be covering everything in regards to Elise as soon as she is released. So if you want to see more Path of Champions content, definitely like and subscribe. Trying to hit 10K subscribers by the end of the year. We have a long way to go, so any help is greatly appreciated. And I hope you all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.